Glad to see everybody out here for this forum. I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. My name is Michael Comer. I'm the Vice President of the Chamber of New Madrid, Chamber of Commerce of New Madrid, and I also work for State Parks, manage at Awesome Home and a couple other parks down in this part of the state. I've lived here since 1998, and it kind of hit me this year as I looked at yard signs and such that I really didn't know a lot about some of the candidates. I might know them by name, but I didn't know them that well, and I certainly didn't know where they stood on issues that were facing the town. And so I brought up the idea of maybe having this forum, which is designed for the candidates to be able to present themselves to you, the voters, and for you to get a better idea of where they stand and if you would want them to be your mayor or not. So I want to stress this is not a debate. This is a forum. Each candidate will be given the same questions. Each candidate will be given the same amount of time to answer. So it's fair across the board for each one. Would like to ask everybody to either turn off or silence any communication devices so we don't have cute songs and funny sound effects going off during this. The candidates drew names. They drew numbers, and they'll be going in that order in a rotating basis. The first candidate will be Mr. Bach, followed by Mr. White and Mr. Bodai as they do their introductions. And they'll be given 5 minutes each for their introductions. The following questions will be given 3 minutes each. Okay. So if we're ready, we'll let Mr. Bach.
Certainly a pleasure to be here, and thank you all for coming out to see me. Let me begin by stating that the City of New Madrid is a complicated business, charged with numerous duties and responsibilities involving public health and safety, the economic welfare of our city, utility services to our citizens, programs for youth, property ownership and management, care of our cemeteries, park facility management for sports, recreation, and tourism, and employment of significant workforce covering 5 city departments and administration to carry out these tasks. It has a budget this year of $1.8 million. That is nearly $5,000 a day, 365 days a year. The city is not isolated in carrying out its responsibilities. Interaction and cooperation between the city and our county, the state of Missouri and all of its departments, executive offices, the legislature, the various departments of the federal government, and our elected representatives are all part of meeting our obligations with the public. I see 4 important qualifications to serve as the town's mayor, its chief executive officer. 1, experience and connections in government. 2, experience in business. 3, experience in finance. And 4, familiarity with the city, its organization, and needs. Knowledge of the law, familiarity with the proper conduct of public meetings, and time to do the job are also very important. In addition to my many business activities here since 1979, I think the following deserves mention. A little over a year after I retired from my work as a county public administrator, I was contacted by the governor's office requesting that I serve on the state's Public Defender Commission. I was told that the governor wanted to appoint me to the commission because of my legal experience, my long and sterling record in county government, and my demonstrated willingness to serve the people of this state on other boards. The Public Defender Commission, on which I now serve as vice chair, is responsible for over 600 employees and a $42 million annual budget. I appreciate the governor's trust. Since mid-1980s, I have served on the Executive Committee of the State Historical Society of Missouri. The Society currently has 35 employees, an annual budget of about $2.3 million, and just completed the sale of $35 million in state bonds to build a new headquarters in Columbia, Missouri, which I began working on when I was president of the Society in 1986. It took us 20 years. I am very proud to have been part of this effort that wove its difficult way through a maze of state government. I served on the Missouri Prosecuting Attorney's Retirement System Board, which was responsible for the investment and management of over $20 million in retirement contributions. I currently serve on the Three Rivers Foundation Trust, which has just completed a multi-million-dollar fundraising drive. I'm a member of the National Trail of Tears Board, an organization which I co-founded. That board works closely with the National Park Service and 5 Indian nations. I'm a member of the Missouri Lawyers Trust Account Foundation, which manages trust account monies for legal public service organizations. On the county level, I served as the county elected prosecutor for 12 years and worked in the office for 11 and a half years as an assistant. I opened the courthouse office, established a bad check collection system, filed about 800 cases a year, tried 4 death penalty cases, and left that office in very good working condition for my successor, Louis Recker. I served a little over 1 term as the county's public administrator. I reestablished that office in the courthouse, and over a period of 4 years, was responsible for over 80 individuals who resided in nursing homes, residential facilities, state hospitals, and residences scattered across the state. Managed and settled estates totaling more than $3 million, and left that office in very good working condition for my successor, Paula Scobie. I just recently chaired the New Madrid County Centennial Committee, which concluded its work in 2015. Within the city, I've been involved in several organizations over the years, including the Museum Board, where I established the museum's endowment fund and directed raising its first $50,000. The Kiwanis Club, which raised money for Little League baseballs, football, and soccer, and the Higgerson School's historic site, which I organized and still direct, and as treasurer of the New Madrid Country Club. In the time remaining, I'm to tell you what I hope to accomplish as mayor. Believe me, there isn't enough time. For the past 6 years, I have published papers detailing, past 6 weeks, I have published papers detailing my thoughts and positions on business improvements on our highway, business loop 55 corridor, public safety, public transit, tourism, cemeteries, and youth activities, parks, and recreation. In the next 2 weeks, I will cover legislative infrastructure and open government. I had the time to serve as mayor, and I appreciate your coming tonight to hear all of us. Thank you.
First off, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Nick White. I've currently served on City Council here in New Madrid since 2012. I moved here to New Madrid in 2008, straight out of high school, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do, trying a variety of different jobs here in town, and so on and so forth. I serve on numerous boards here in town as well, the Madrid Historical Museum. I serve on the JCs as well. I also serve, of course, like I said, on City Council. But I come here tonight to tell the people of New Madrid that I have an announcement to make. I am withdrawing my candidacy for mayor, effective immediately. I have put long, hard thought and prayer into this, and I believe that it's the best for the city for me to withdraw my candidacy. By doing so, I would like to endorse Mr. Bob. The reason for this is, this man has been involved in New Madrid his whole entire life. His family's from here. He truly loves this town. He wants the best for this town, and at the critical state that this town is in regards to Miranda, we need someone who has the ability to get things done, for us to get businesses here, to help the people who have been affected by the Miranda layoff and other things, of course, that's going on. I know this might come as a shock to some of you all, and believe me, it does me too. I truthfully, I truthfully love this town. I really do. If I didn't think I had the ability to be your mayor, I would have never filed for mayor. By saying that, I appreciate everyone's support that has supported me in me filing for mayor, and I hope that the things that I have said tonight will reflect on who I think is best to lead this town here on out. I appreciate everyone, and thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Richard Bodine. I'm a candidate for the position of mayor in the April elections. I would like to share some things with you I feel make me qualified for this position. In 1973, I started a career at Associated Electric's New Madrid power plant, and I retired from there in 2009, 36 years of experience. During my career at Associated Electric, I held the following positions. I was a heavy equipment operator, material handling supervisor, mechanical maintenance planner, mechanical maintenance supervisor, and I was a plant fire chief. I've attended numerous training seminars on human resources and people's work habits. I've also attended several safety classes. I was responsible for creating operations, maintenance, as well as capital improvement project budgets. I wrote and implemented several maintenance planning, preventive maintenance planning programs. I was responsible for scheduling downtime on equipment and supervised construction on large rebuild projects. In 2009, after my retirement, I came back to New Madrid Power Plant working with Kelly Engineering as a consultant and overseeing large rebuilds on plant outages. In 2009, I received a Missouri State Senate resolution for my life and career accomplishments. In 2010, I came to work for the City of New Madrid as Street and Park Superintendent. Excuse me. Also as the city's safety coordinator. In 2015, I became the city's code enforcement officer. Having been a prior city councilman, I'm a city councilman, I know how the city government works. I've been employed for the last 5 years at the city and know all the aspects of the day-to-day operation. I know the strengths and weaknesses in the city's infrastructure and have been working with engineering firms on solutions to rectify these inadequacies. I would continue to work with the Missouri Economic Development Committee to try and bring industry and more jobs into our community. If elected, I will diligently work with the City Council making improvements to this city, our home, and making it a better place to work, live, and raise our children. In summary, I have 33 years supervisory experience. I've attended numerous training classes in human resources, safety, and people's work habits and ethics. I'm a certified firefighter trainer. I have 2 certifications from FEMA for incident command, and I've also worked for the city for 5 years and know its operation well. That's it. If elected, my plans are to continue working on the infrastructure. Like I said, I've been working with engineering companies, and there's a lot of projects I've been involved in that I'd like to continue on with. For instance, you know, when it's going to rain, we already know where our problems are at, and we want to fix those things right. And I think the right way to do that is bring the engineers in, so when fixing one problem, you don't make another. Things of that nature. Thank you.
Is what do you think is the most pressing issue facing the city at this time, and what will be the first major thing on your agenda that you intend to do as mayor? And I'll be glad to repeat any of these questions if you need it.
Well, obviously there are, I think, a number of pressing issues, but if I have to pick one, from all of the interviews I did with department heads and after looking at the budget, I think it's our fire department. Our fire department over the past several years has had its budget cut about $30,000. It has equipment that needs to be replaced. It's down to 14 volunteers, and it's struggling, I think, to provide the city with adequate fire protection. It needs additional resources and it needs additional personnel. Where you have your house, be it Sykeston or New Madrid, should not matter as to whether or not your house is saved if you have a fire. And I think that is the case right now, that we do not have adequate resources devoted toward our fire department. We have a new station, that's great. We need some new equipment, and we need a stronger department. And that's one area that I'm going to concentrate on if elected as mayor. Thank you.
We have infrastructure problems that I think need to be dealt with first. Like I said, we have drainage issues that we know anytime it rains, we're gonna have floods. We have issues with the levee and surrounding streets every time we have high water. I've been working with the Corps of Engineers for some time on a project, and they're gonna be putting in relief wells on the levee side, which in turn will pipe directly into our storm drains, reducing the seep water that goes on like water streets and surrounding areas, so we don't have potholes falling in the road. And it's gonna make our, streets and levees more safe for the community. They also have plans, the Corps of Engineers is gonna pay for this. We're gonna be putting culvert pipes in on Kings Highway, the sawmill, and close that, so that'll make the levee structure safer. They're also going to continue on down to the sawmill, closing that ditch, making that structure safer. They're going to continue on by Sinclair and close all that culverts and backfill it with dirt. I've taken engineers around to locations that flood every time it rains. We have Dr. Roush's area out in St. Lawrence that's like an island every time it floods. And also on St. Peter, the drainage there is bad. Every time we have a huge rain, we have houses flood there. We have engineers looking at that. And I think there's probably a pretty easy fix for that. We have issues on Water Street that people get water in their house. We've had engineers in to look at that, and they're coming up with a resolve for all these things. And I think we need to put the people's safety first, their homes. Continue on the path we're going with rebuilding our infrastructure.
Answer this question. Maybe you get your mic a little better so everybody can hear you. The next question is, do you believe the city is effective in the timely release of information about its actions, plans, expenses, and investments? If not, what would you change?
I think we need to be more vocal about what's being done in the city. I think there needs to be more citizen involvement in large purchases with the city banks. When you get up into the $700,000-800,000 range, people, the taxpayers need to be involved in that decision. That's a large amount of money. If I am elected into that position, I'm going to have an office in City Hall. And I urge people, if you have any problems or any issues you'd like to talk about, to talk to and promise you an answer back. I think the city needs to be very transparent in all of its moves. We have a possibility of a big issue facing the city. Uncertainty with Associated Electric, their purchase of the power plant. A lot of people think, we sold the power plant Associated for $100 million, if that is the case. We sold them the right to buy the power plant. And it's at best a lease purchase agreement. And they can back out on that at any time they decide. And the money that they've given us, we'll keep, but there is no guarantee that the $100 million will ever be there. So I think we need to be very conservative and watch what we spend. People need to be aware of all these things that are going on.
Repeat the question, please.
So do you believe the city is effective in the timely release of information about its actions, plans, expenses, and investments? And if not, what would you change?
Well, the answer to the first question is a clear and resounding no. The city has not been open. As I say, it's been operating in a shadow. You get some information, you hear things on the street, Minutes are posted on the website a month or more after a particular meeting. If you read the agenda, it's hard to figure out what's going to happen at the meeting. It is so vague. I will do the following. 1, I will have issued an annual report about the city that will cover all of its operations, its budget, its projected and actual expense, all property acquired and disposed of, relevant financial information, a list of city employees and salaries, a list of travel expenses of the employees and council members, a listing of all committee members, and information from reports in each city department. This will be done annually. Second, I want to broadcast council meetings. They're taping tonight, so they're going to post it on the web tomorrow. You can post things in real time, and I think people ought to be able to sit at home and watch our meetings if they want to. I think we ought to have pre-meeting and post-meeting summaries. If you look at the City of Sikeston scanner, that's exactly what that is. It's not just an agenda, but it tells you what they're going to talk about, what they're considering, so that you're informed. And if you're interested, you'll know about it up front. I want to post reports and contracts that the council takes up at its meeting. Let people look at these things. Now, clearly, not everything can be public. There is a place in a meeting for closed sessions dealing with employee matters, confidential contract and litigation matters. That's fine. But the things that are discussed at its public meetings and the documents that it receives ought to be posted. Jan Fahrenberg told me she can do that, and it won't take much time. If you've noticed, the agenda does not contain a financial report segment in it. There's no financial report publicly given at each meeting, or at least monthly, about where the money is being spent, where it's being invested, how the budget is being changed, and so forth. And I will certainly change that and make that public. So in answer to the first question, no, I do not think it's open enough. And the rest of that is these are the things that I will do so that everyone will know what's going on in advance and after it happens. Thank you.
Offices are closed on Fridays, which is an inconvenience to citizens. Would you continue this and why?
I think this is what I call a minor issue. I don't think it's a real hot button issue right now. I think altering city employees' schedules, if it's done, should be done slowly. My first proposal was, in one of my papers, was that we make public transportation, our transit system, available on Fridays and Saturday mornings. That would obviously require some city employees to shift their schedules to operate City Hall for dispatch and so forth on Fridays, and at least dispatch on Saturday mornings. So I think that it can be done and still continue to operate right now in the way they are. I don't like City Hall being closed on Friday. I'm not quite sure the rationale that was behind it originally, but as I say, I don't think that this is one of the first things I want to do if I'm elected mayor. I think eventually we certainly should allow people to pay their bills, file requests, get transportation, and that can be done, I think, with schedule shifts and allow the other employees in the departments to continue to operate on a 4-day system, which is good for those departments as well. So it's kind of a split answer. City Hall should be open, but maybe the departments should continue to operate as they are. I think it's something to look at, but I don't think that's necessarily completely the decision of the mayor. Thank you.
I feel there's pros and cons. A lot of people like extra hours coverage at the end of each day. Some people get off at 5 and they like to be able to go to the City Hall after they get off work. If we went to a 4-day work schedule, people at City Hall would basically get off at 5, unless you stagger them. And I don't think that's much of an issue, to be honest with you. As far as the workforce, the 10-hour day works much better. If you start at 7 in the morning and quit at 3, you get very little accomplished during the day. I think you'd see overtime increase if you did that.
Okay. And you're the first one on this question. It's kind of a two-part question. Do you have any concerns about the city's water and sewage systems? Are there any problems with those, and are there any improvements you would like to make to the systems?
Yes, there is. We have some water lines in the city that are 100 years old. Some of them have lead joints in them. We also have some asbestos water lines that are well over 100 years old that need to be replaced. And the way it's being done at present, and I know you can't do everything at once, the city's been progressing over the years working on the infrastructure. But what we have now is usually if we have any kind of a slide trimmer, we end up with a water leak. And in turn, they dig the road up and then we patch a road. I think we need to go in and replace those 100-year-old water lines with new ones and then pave our streets and be done. I don't think we need to keep seesawing back and forth, patching. As far as the asbestos water lines, they pose no health hazard to the citizens of New Madrid. However, if you have a leak, you cannot repair a leak on them. You have to replace the line. And I think we probably need to uncover all those at once and take them out, because there is an asbestos removal process you have to go through. You have to have people that are trained in removal of asbestos, and it has to be taken to the hazardous material site after it's removed. Yes, most definitely, there's issues. Both.
You get the first on this one. Oh, right.
Even you're confused. A couple of things that when I did my interviews of the departments, things that I learned. One about the sewage system. We have a new sewage lagoon. There is one issue, or actually a couple of small issues dealing with that lagoon. One has to do with flood hazard that occurred earlier, which is being corrected. The second, which was a surprise, is that the north slope of the new lagoon is sloughing pretty bad, and it's got some serious erosion on it, and that needs to be attended to. That's a brand new lagoon, and certainly it doesn't need to be breached. Our water and sewage system was put together in the 1910s. That's well over 100 years ago, and we all know that it has not been replaced, and certainly in the old parts of the city. And as Dickie alluded to, it's been patched together over the years. And there are obviously serious problems with a 100-year-old system, and attention needs to be given to it. Obviously, it's going to be an expensive process. Relaying water lines, sewer lines have collapsed, and those have caused problems in the streets. I think they've been dealt with in the best way they can, but the problem is still there. We're still living with an old system in the old part of town, and it's going to need attention. This is an infrastructure issue, clearly, and something that the council is going to have to devote its time and some of its budget to fixing. Thank you.
So now you say that. I'm on the track now. I messed myself up. Describe your understanding of what the work of a mayor is and what it is not.
That's a good question. And I think it depends on the person and the town that's involved. First of all, the mayor sets the agenda for the meeting. I think that's one of the most important things that he does. Other individuals obviously can put things on that agenda, but it's the mayor that is going to set the agenda and run the meeting. And so what the order of that agenda, the information it gives out, how business is handled is certainly an important part of the mayor's responsibility. He presides over the meeting when he's present. Someone must preside over the meeting and make sure that the rules are followed and that the agenda is adhered to. And I alluded to earlier, it just depends on what you want to do as mayor, but certainly making this more public, I think, is clearly a job for the mayor of this town. If the mayor doesn't see to those things, who is going to, and who's going to push for those? The mayor obviously works very close in our city with a city administrator. Not all cities have administrators, therefore the mayor has more duties and time that's required to deal with city business. But oddly, the presence of the mayor on the work site or anywhere else, I think is important. I think you need to be seen. And you also need to be heard. The mayor is really the ears of the city and the council. So the mayor is a great listening post for the city. All of those things, I believe, make the mayor's job important and impart some serious responsibility. If you see something wrong, fix it. And that's the mayor. And that's what I've been trying to put in my weekly papers of things that I've observed that I believe need to be fixed, straightened, amended, or whatever. And as mayor, that's how I'm going to apply my time and talents. Thank you.
I agree with Raleigh that the mayor is basically the leader of the city. He's supposed to do people's wishes. And I think the mayor needs to have an open door policy with the citizens in order to do that. And I think he needs to address every question any citizen has for him. And I also think that citizen in turn needs to provide feedback to the mayor. The mayor can basically do what the city council allows him to do. And I think a good mayor has to go in, if he wants a project done, and put all the statistics together and present it in a way that makes the city council buy into what he wants to do. Because you cannot pass any kind of bill by yourself. It takes the whole council as a unit. You know, one person, no power, the whole assembly, all power. And I think that's how it needs to be done. The people's wishes need to be fulfilled. You know, a lot of people think if you're mayor or city councilman, it might make you someone's boss, but it doesn't. You know, a lot of people forget that in those positions, all you are is a representative of the people in the town. And if you don't abide by their wishes, you're not doing your job.
As mayor, much of your time will be spent in a supervisory role. What experience do you have as a supervisor in hiring, firing, leading of meetings? And what is the largest number of employees you have been responsible for directly supervising?
I was in supervision for 33 years, 28 at the New Madrid Power Plant, and 5 here at the City of New Madrid. I was the fire chief at the New Madrid Power Plant, and once a year I had to supervise the whole plant in fire extinguisher training. I had to supervise our fire team and build plans on how to implement burn deck fires or target fires, and have pre-planning for all that. I ran a maintenance crew, a coal handling department crew. I ran large groups of construction personnel, rebuild projects during that.
Reread the question, Mike.
As mayor, much of your time will be spent in a supervisory role. What experience do you have as a supervisor, hiring, firing, leading of meetings? And what is the largest number of employees you have been responsible for directly supervising?
Well, first of all, I don't think the mayor is a supervisor of the city crews. That's the responsibility of the department heads and the city administrator. The mayor, as I indicated before, conducts the meetings and runs the meetings, which I have done in many different capacities in various roles on my state boards, on my other boards, which I've been president, vice president of a number of organizations. I currently sit as vice chair of the Public Defender Commission. That commission, as I indicated earlier, has 600 employees that we make decisions about personnel, we make decisions about hiring and firing. And so in that capacity, of supervision level, that's sort of where I am on that. My personal supervision of the largest group I guess I've ever managed where I had employees that I actually hired and had under me, would probably have been in the prosecutor's office, and would have been my staff and investigating personnel and other people that I dealt with in organizing a trial or something else. Could you hit the last part of that again?
It said, what is the largest number of employees you work with?
Before that, what was it?
What experience do you have as a supervisor?
Okay.
And in parentheses, it had hiring, firing, leading the meetings, those type of duties.
Right. Well, I've built houses, I've had crews that I've managed, all of those types of things. Managing people is a difficult job and requires a lot of attention. Not all of it is very pleasant, I can tell you. There's some very unpleasant things about managing others. But over the years, I've gotten along very well with most people that I've worked with, either above and below me. So, thank you.
And here's the one thing that you could accomplish during your first term in office. What would you want that to be?
I only get one.
You only got 3 minutes.
And this is kind of, this is not a pie in the sky dream, but one of the things I would like to see the city do is to construct a recreation center, and I intend to go to work on that. And it's going to be a complicated process. It's probably not going to happen in a single term. The mayor is only elected for 2 years, but let's say, if I'm lucky to get elected and I get reelected, maybe it might last longer than that. But here's the way you do a building like that. One is you get a committee together and they decide what needs to go in that building. And then you can hire an architect to draw a schematic, a concept plan, and give you a cost estimate. For instance, if that center is 30,000 square feet, the cost estimate is $250 a square foot, that's $7.5 million it'll take to construct that center. It's a lot of money. So the second part of the project is to put the money together. And that would be through partnerships, through grants, through public financing, and through fundraising to try to put together whatever it's going to take to build that building. The third phase is actually picking the site, getting your architecture to draw the plans for construction and construction. So that's one thing that I would really like to do. I think it will move the town in a direction that's good for all of its citizens, adults and youth, and give us really something to be proud of. Thank you.
I think the one thing I'd like to do for the city of New Madrid is bring some industry and jobs into our community. We have Mr. Ron Lloyd and the city administrator and the present mayor working with their economic development committee tirelessly, and I'd like to pursue that. I think we need jobs in our city, and that would be my most important project, I think.
A disclaimer on this one, this concerns the Chamber of Commerce, and this was not submitted by any member of the board. It was submitted by a private citizen. Said the New Madrid Chamber of Commerce for more than 50 years has served the business community and directed or been involved in nearly every public event and project. Are you a member of the Chamber, and why or why not? And if you are elected mayor, what would you do to improve the Chamber of Commerce operation?
I'm not a member of the Chamber of Commerce. If elected mayor, I would most definitely support the Chamber of Commerce. I support all the events they have. I would like to get involved in different things. I know the Chamber likes to bring in boats and tourism into our city. And to be perfectly honest with everyone, once they get here, there's really not much for them to do. And I was talking to them the other day about this, and if we had just a park in an area close to the levee and had picnic tables and a parking lot, when we have these boat events and things come in, we could also invite some vendors into town to actually sell something, and in turn, hopefully get some other people to come into town to enjoy it as well.
Most definitely. Read the question, please.
The New Madrid Chamber of Commerce for more than 50 years has served the business community and directed or been involved in nearly every public event and project. Are you a member of the Chamber? And why or why not? And if you are elected mayor, what would you do to improve the Chamber of Commerce operation?
Well, certainly the Chamber has been involved seriously in this town for at least 50 years. I believe the Chamber sort of got its present composition when the St. Jude Industrial Park was being developed. Sam Hunter thought that it was very important to have an active Chamber. The Chamber also founded and established the New Madrid Historical Museum. For a number of years, the Chamber Director was in charge of economic development. That was before the present scenario with Don Lloyd or with Marion Bach when she worked at the City Hall. So the Chamber has had a number of very important roles. Unfortunately, I think the Chamber only has about a little better than 50% membership of the businesses in New Madrid, and it needs better support and it needs more funds to do its job. Christina is currently a part-time employee and she's by herself. What I would do as mayor, I would use the mayor's position as sort of a bully pulpit to promote the Chamber, to recruit members, to go talk to businesses, to urge that they not only join, but they also begin participating in Chamber activities. Think about it. The Chamber is our only real spokesperson, business-wise, for the town. Don Lloyd actually works for the Mayor's Association. And Don represents not only the city of New Madrid, but the other cities in the county that are members of that association. So when a business is referred to him from the state, he might send out 2 or 3 proposals from different towns. So he's not just speaking for the city, but the Chamber speaks for the city. And the more visible and the more active it is, and I think the better off this town will be. And I will work very hard to use my position to enhance its position and its and what it can deliver for all of us. Thank you.
About 10 to 15 years ago, the city started to address abandoned houses and junky lots in the city. That didn't seem to last long, and there are a number of abandoned houses and junky lots that present a health and safety hazard. What would you do to address this issue?
I agree with the statement. I walk the town most mornings and I look at a lot of these properties. The first thing I would do is amend our city code. Our ordinances, I do not believe, properly address and deal with what would give the city the ability to deal with these properties. Some of them just need to be cleaned up. They don't need to be demolished, but they need some attention. And the ability of the city to force an individual to do that isn't much. It's very weak. As far as I know, there are no fines levied. They send a letter. Then if they don't go mow it, the city will go mow it and attach a tax bill. Well, there are other issues dealing with these properties. There are some with, there are holes in roofs, there are windows knocked out and so forth. So all this looks bad. And there are a lot of them down on the riverfront which look just horrible. So I think the first thing I would do is beef up with the city attorney, beef up our code to give the city more muscle in dealing with these properties. Also, there may be available some monies and grants to help individuals improve their properties. And I think that the city could get involved in that. It's not just tearing things down, but fixing them. And so I think those are two things that I can think of immediately to deal with really what has become a blight in various parts of town. It's very good parts of town, by the way. Thank you.
Years ago, the city started to address abandoned houses and junky lots in the city. That didn't seem to last long, and there are a number of abandoned houses and junky lots that present a health and safety hazard. What would you do to address this issue?
I think Riley is probably right to an extent on those rules that need to be changed. Just because a house is ugly doesn't mean it can be condemned or you can make anyone do anything about it. A house has to have windows knocked out, doors open, or have tall grass and weeds. We have religiously cleaned those lots, and each time we do, we use a FEMA guide as far as what monies it costs the city and charge that against the state or whoever's home it is. But to date, I don't know of any that's ever been collected. I think there needs to be a process where the repetitive ones that have to be done every month. Eventually, the city needs to be able to acquire those, or recoup some of the money back for that. We have, in this past year, I think, torn down, cleaned up 6 lots down, 4 houses down, cleaned them up, and had several vehicles towed that were unlicensed, with no tires and wheels on it. And there's currently about, I think, 4 pages, legal pages, and pending ones that we've done and haven't collected anything. I think it does need to be changed.
Here. Several years ago, when gas prices were high, the city decided to allow golf carts and ATVs to be driven on city streets, even though these are not street legal. It is not uncommon to see these vehicles being driven around town by children. This seems to be a dangerous policy. Would you change that or allow these vehicles to operate on city streets?
I don't think I would change that policy. However, I think what we do need to do is enforce that policy. If you don't have a driver's license and insurance on the vehicle, it's against the law. And if you break the law, you need to get a ticket. And, I think we need to address it in that manner. I personally have a UTV, and I have a city's license for it, and I really enjoy being able to ride it up on the levee. I don't ride it all over town, but I like to be able to ride it to and from the levee so I can ride around and look. And I think if people use it in that manner, I have no problem with it.
Well, this is the prosecutor in me. I do not like it. I think we're thumbing our nose at state laws dealing with what you can have on the road and what you cannot have on the road. I think our laws need to be in tune with the state of Missouri as to what they allow and don't allow, and that's what we should enforce. I think it's dangerous, and we've all seen it. You've seen unlicensed drivers speeding up and down the streets, and it's going to get warm here in about another 2 weeks, and that's when they come out. I just don't think tolerating it is the right policy, and that's what's been done. So the old prosecuting attorney in me is enforce the law and be fair about it, but enforce it equally across the board. Thank you.
In driving around town, one can find several streets that are extremely rough with potholes, etc. But the city only plans to pave 1 street per year. Doesn't that seem to be too little too late?
Yes. And I talked to Larry Roast yesterday, and Larry was mayor, 15 years ago. And at that time, the city adopted a policy to take care of its streets, to do so much a year and so forth. And that's pretty much gone out the window and hasn't been adhered to. I walk the streets in the morning. I can tell you they're terribly cracked. They need to be sealed properly. Cracks need to be poured on an annual maintenance basis. Potholes need to be fixed. We have cuts in the streets from utilities that are there for months before they're actually filled. So our streets, and I've heard a lot about streets from people I've talked to, and it's kind of surprised me. I knew they weren't in very good shape, but apparently everybody else realizes they're not in good shape as well. The city actually has repaved 2 streets that I'm aware of in recent memory. One is Waters Street, and the other is part of Pinell. And in neither case did they curb and gutter the street, and they did not crown the street. In other words, there's no proper engineering on that construction. To me, that's a waste of money. I've built subdivision here in town, and we had to curb and gutter and crown our streets for proper drainage and all of those things. And why doesn't the city follow its own requirements for everybody else? If the streets they're expensive, and if they're going to last, they need to be constructed properly. So I think what we're able to afford to do, let's do it. But I think a lot of it is maintenance that we're so far behind on. So I would hopefully bring our maintenance program back up to speed. If we need additional equipment to do that, let's purchase it and do that, and then start replacing. And we won't have to replace as many if we take care of what we have. Thank you.
As far as the streets, I think our drainage issues need to be addressed first. Anywhere you have drainage issues and the water doesn't leave the road, you have the alligator cracking. And if you go in and pave it without repairing the problem of water standing on it, you're basically wasting your money because it'll come right back. There are several potholes in town, but there again, we plan on fixing water lines. We don't want to fix a lot of streets and have to tear them right up and put water lines down and then replace the street again. I think we need to start our water lines and our water drainage issues, get those repaired, and then go back in and fix our streets right once and for all.
If you're the second one to answer a question, just name it. This person sent in the following question. He said, I routinely pick up trash in my ditch each week. If elected, would you consider stepping up litter control and even encouraging city police to issue citations for littering? To your knowledge, has anyone ever received a littering ticket in New Madrid?
I can't answer the question as far as the ticket. Chief of Police is in the audience. He might be the person to ask that, but most definitely litter does need to be addressed in the city of New Madrid. The street department every morning starts work at 6 o'clock. And the first thing they do is go and clean City Hall, and then they pair up teams of 2 people in each pickup, and they drive the levee, Main Street, and some of the heavily traveled streets in town. And each truck every day gets a minimum of 2 6-gallon buckets full of bottles, boxes, and wrappers out of restaurants. And it's ridiculous that people care so little to do things like that. Most definitely, we need to pick up the pace on issuing tickets and try to resolve this. We also have an issue with some of our businesses that have a large volume of boxes. They don't maintain those in a manner that keeps them from flowing in our ditches. Most definitely.
Reread the question, please.
It said, I routinely pick up trash in my ditch each week. If elected, would you consider stepping up litter control and even encouraging city police to issue citations for littering? To your knowledge, has anyone ever received a littering ticket in New Madrid?
Well, to the last question, I sure hope so, because I think there's been plenty of opportunities to issue citations when it's seen. Unfortunately, I'm sure a lot of trash is thrown out during the evenings. I once remarked, I said, I know what people do when they drive around. They drink, they smoke, and they eat, because that's what you see. You see soda bottles, liquor bottles, cigarette packs, and food containers, and that's all goes out the windows. And that's what people do when they drive around. They do those things and then throw everything out. I think we all pick up way too much trash, but it's unfortunately the way it is. I would like to see better trash control. How you get to that, I guess maybe more receptacles. I think we could use some extra receptacles on the riverfront, and I've suggested that before. Especially at where the boats load in and out, because those things fill up on the weekends and overflow. So I think attending to things like that, which the city can do, and perhaps maybe a tighter schedule on emptying trash cans and so forth on Main Street might help in that. But I say enforcement, I know litter enforcement is difficult, You know, it's really the responsibility of your citizens not to do those kinds of things, and convincing people that, you know, they're hurting the town when they throw all that stuff out the window, probably is the best solution, but don't know if it's really feasible. Thank you.
Well, while you're up there, this one's kind of related to that question, so I grouped them together. Since some of the farm fields adjacent to and near Dollar General and Ramey's are covered with plastic bags, that without a doubt came from these stores. The farmers who operate these farms must send a ground crew in before planting to pick this up themselves. Do you think these businesses should be liable for this, and why or why not?
No, I do not think the businesses should be liable for doing business and letting their customers leave with bags with merchandise in them. The fact that they're located next to those fields is unfortunate. Now, how do you deal with a problem like that? Well, some cities have dealt with it by banning the plastic bags. And I mean, that certainly might be something we might consider if it's that serious a problem. I've seen the fields, they're ugly, they're unsightly, but I don't believe the businesses themselves are responsible for that situation. The people that shop there are. It'd be nice, maybe a fence, maybe require them to maybe fence some areas that would keep the trash from blowing. That's something that you could do with zoning codes and so forth that might help contain the trash. You know, have the business make a better effort to tell people not to do those types of things. But I don't, you know, the first part of that question, I don't see if that's a possibility. Thank you.
I recently dealt with a little bit of this just the other day, as a matter of fact. I had a call from a citizen, and he was talking about boxes blowing out from the ditch on 61 Highway. And I went by and checked, and the business in question had boxes that had been broken down, laid in bins, instead of being broken down, placed in storage containers like they should. And yes, I told them that they needed to secure those, that, you know, we had heavy winds and flash flood warnings coming, and asked them to address that just the other day. The other part of that is, I agree with Robbie on the bags. People go in and shop, and they go out to their car, lay the merchandise in the car and drop the bags. A fence might help some. I know the city in the past has hired the juvenile detention center to come in and clean those areas up, as well as others, and give them some money for their excursions and things. But there is no real good resolve with that. I think the customers need to be made aware that they need to dispose of their bags and design and store, and storing it is their job, storing their boxes and things.
With the votes.
I think I'll probably continue this. It brings people into our town, and I think I touched base on that a little earlier about possibly trying to implement more things for people to do. I think if those people had something to do and we had a draw, and other people could come into town and do it at the same time, we might start getting more tourism. What was the second part?
That was it. Would you continue it, or would you renegotiate the contract with the voters?
I think I would continue. We get a lot of positive comments. It makes you feel good when people come in from Australia and Germany and different places and talk about how nice your town looks, for a small town, and how friendly the people are. They say a lot of places they go, people are very rude to them. They kind of feel at home when they get here. And by the way, I just did a cost study on that. The cost study on a boat, when it comes in, is around $3,000 a trip, is what it costs the city. That's for labor and water and sewage and manpower.
I would renegotiate the contract. These boats are multi-million-dollar operations. And I can tell you that the cost of water and trash disposal is nothing for them. And as Dickie said, it's certainly something for the city, $3,000 a pop. We have, I think we're up to 15 boat stops this year. You can do the math, and so it's getting to be expensive. Now, how it started, I think in a very proper way, we were trying to attract the boats to get them to stop here. They'd never stopped before, so they kind of held out this carrot and say, listen, you all stop, we'll put some water on your boat, and you can dump your trash, and we had a couple of boat stops a year. But it's gone way far beyond that, and as I say, they're now looking for places to stop. It's flip-flop. We're not having to beg them to stop. They're now looking for places to stop. This industry is growing on the Mississippi, and it's going to get bigger. And we do not get, we do not get very much from them because there are not many purchases made that are subject to sales tax. So they're not generating much revenue for the city. They go to the museum, they go to the Hickerson School, they go to the Hunter Dawson home. They may go to Ramey's and buy a few things. The drugstore's open, but it's not a shopping experience for them. So I think it's time to renegotiate, and I can understand how it got to this point, but it's getting to be expensive, and as I say, they got the money. Thank you.
We've got about 3 questions left.
Okay.
We're probably never going to get this down where you stay up.
I'm counting. I'm seeing how many times I got to get back up.
What is your short-term and long-term vision for the city of New Madrid? And on a practical level, what specifically do you plan to actually do that will help the city to grow and prosper?
Well, I think short-term and long-term growth really for the city are sort of equal, and that deals, I think, with population and business growth, and what brings about that type of thing. One, you've got to increase your business base. You can do that several ways. I made a proposal in my first paper that we make a real effort to get people off of Interstate 55 coming down our corridor to get on and off the interstate. There's a huge traffic count out there on that road, and we're not getting anything off of it. And if we could channel 5% of that down our corridor, it would have a real impact on our businesses. What does additional business do? You hire employees, there are more jobs, people are more likely to stay here and live here, and the city grows. So I think those things all go hand in hand. And what was the second part of the question?
On a practical level, what specifically do you plan to actually do that will help the city to grow and prosper?
That was part of that answer. Obviously, the second thing, we've got, we have, I think, a pretty good prospect right now of having some internal industrial development in the city of New Madrid. Based on the purchase of the land and the fact that our utilities now have been raised or are being raised to handle that industry. When I visited with Don Lloyd earlier this month, he explained to me that industries, when they look at a place, a lot of places promise them, well, we're going to do this, if you come here, we'll fix this, we'll do that, we'll do that. And that's not very attractive to them. They want to see something there before they really seriously consider coming here. So I think that step has been made. Now, how to get those industries? I think it's hard work and a lot of it's luck. I mean, there are a lot of people out there you're in competition with. Almost every town in the state has got their eyes on industrial development. So I think we've got to use our wits. We ought to do things a little differently or try a little harder. But I think those things over a period of time will help grow. Quality of life is important. And I've referred to earlier the rec center, our youth program. People want things to do where they live. They don't want to just sit there. They want parks to go to. They want their children to be educated, to have summer projects, and so forth. So all of those things are also important, I think, to create a whole town. We have a country club across the street. That's, I think, a very good plus for the city. And so things like that, I think, ultimately will do something. Thank you.
I think short-term and long-term are pretty much one and the same. I think we need to continue with the
city's infrastructure. And I think we need to continue with that economic development community, trying to bring people in. As Raleigh said, there's a lot of towns and states that are after these businesses, but there's also a lot of states after these businesses as well. It's the same story all over the country. Jobs are running out of the United States very quickly instead of into it. I think the infrastructure being set as far as the water tower, the water lines, the new substation they're putting in for it in place gives us quite an edge on some of the places, knowing it's already in place. Makes people, want to come. I talked with Don myself earlier this week, and he said a huge project was looking at our space, and they had basically asked more questions about our area, our town, than any of the others, because those things are in place. And I think we need to continue on those lines and try to bring business into our community. I also think we need to be very cautious about the money we spend. And with the uncertainty with Associated Electric, I think we need to have money in reserve for hard times, because I think if that deal ever goes away, which it could at any time, we're probably going to have some really hard decisions to make. I think we need to be prepared for that if that time comes.
And what do you think is your what do you think is your best attribute to help bring jobs to New Madrid?
I think I pretty much just said that. Continuing work with the Economic Development Committee, continuing on with our infrastructure field. Of course, the city has plans. They bought some land to make new subdivisions for medium-range housing. I think that's something we need to be looking at. Just the same track we're on.
I would say my best attribute, or what I have to offer to move the city forward, is an understanding of government and the people in the government that can help us accomplish the things we want to. As I indicated in my introduction, this is a pretty complicated affair here. And there are a lot of people that have to be brought in to play, to do anything. And I've worked the halls of the legislature. I know a lot of public officials. I've moved around in those areas of high finance, of investment, of bonding, and things that it's going to take to make things happen. So I think that would probably be the best thing that I have to offer. There's a lot of my experience, a lot of my contacts and friends that I've made over the years in various places that can be of help to us if they're called on at the proper time. One thing I mentioned earlier was doing something about the business loop and adding a turn lane on that, which I think we really need. We've had some deaths out there, and it's gotten busy. Doug Livela, our senator, is now the chair of the Senate Transportation Committee, and is in a very good place to help us do that. And that's the kind of resources that we need to tap into and get these things done. And we can't do it alone. But Doug, and people like Doug can help us. We just have to let them know what we want, why we want it, and what's needed to get done, and let them work for us. Because we certainly do not have all the resources necessary to accomplish what we want to accomplish. Thank you. Thank you.
Why do you think you are the best candidate for mayor of New Madrid?
Well, I think it's up to the voters to decide who they want to be mayor. I think it's up to me to offer you what I have. And as I indicated, my experience in business, my experience in finance, my experience in government, and those types of things. And that's what I have to offer, and some of the ideas that I've put forward. I hope that you would consider those when deciding to vote. I think this is an important election, which is why I decided to run. I think the city is really at a crossroads. We've come to a certain point, and now the question is, which direction do we go? We're very lucky. We have a lot of resources, and we have some money. And certainly caretaking that money and using it, leveraging it and using it to our advantage for our future is very important. We need to be prudent. We'll never come down this road again. We'll never get this kind of windfall again. And at least in our lifetime, certainly. So I think we need to handle it properly, and that's what I want to do, and why I would hope you would consider me as your mayor. Thank you.
I have prior experience in city government. I have 33 years experience in supervision. I've attended numerous training courses, human resources. I have held several training functions at power plant for years. I'm a certified firefighter. I have 2 FEMA certifications for incident command. I also have a hazmat certification. I know the city. I know the infrastructure. I know its weaknesses. I know its strengths. I know what needs to be done, repaired. I'll do my best to make all those things happen.
I'd like to thank the candidates for coming out. Thank all of you for coming out. A week from tonight, we'll have another forum, and this will be for the candidates that are running for the school board elections. So if you have an interest in that, or if you have questions that you'd like to submit for that, you can send them to Christina at the Chamber of Commerce. I'm sure candidates will be hoping to answer any of your personal questions if you have some that have come up. And I thank you all for coming out.